August 15, 1943. A secured compound on the outskirts of Carlsbad, New Mexico. The air is thin, dry, and humming with a quiet, scornful energy. A group of Japanese officers, prisoners of war from a sunken aircraft carrier, stand under armed guard. They are not in a typical camp. They are being shown an American weapon. Their faces, a mixture of stoicism and forced neutrality, begin to crack. First, a twitch at the corner of a mouth. Then a low, disbelieving snort. Finally, open, unrestrained laughter. It echoes off the surrounding munitions sheds, a sound of pure, unadulterated derision. Before them, a U.S. Army sergeant holds a small, lightweight bomb casing. It's not the steel cylinder they expect. It's a segmented, winged contraption. He opens a section with a quiet click. Inside, nestled in individual felt pockets, are tiny, sleeping, furry bodies. Mexican free-tailed bats. A Japanese lieutenant, a former aviation engineer, wipes his eyes, shaking his head. The translator, a young American intelligence officer, stiffens. The lieutenant's words are sharp, clear. This is America's secret weapon? The mighty eagle has become a mouse. You drop rodents on the emperor's homeland. The concept is absurd. Operation X-ray. The brainchild not of a general, but of a Pennsylvania dentist, Dr. Lytle Adams. He'd envisioned a new kind of incendiary horror, 1,000 bombers, each carrying 26 of these segmented casings. They'd release them at dawn over Japan's industrial cities. The casings would deploy a small parachute, descend to 1,000 feet, then open. And out would flutter 1,000 bats per casing. 1 million bats per mission. Each bat, surgically fitted with a tiny, time-delayed napalm charge. They would instinctively seek refuge in the dark, shadowy spaces beneath the eaves of wooden houses, in factory rafters, in the very architectural soul of a nation built of paper and timber. Then, as the sun rose, the timers would click to zero. Not one large explosion, but 100,000 silent, simultaneous, and utterly unstoppable points of ignition. A firestorm born from the rafters downward. You can almost smell the imagined smoke, hear the quiet rustle of a million wings in the pre-dawn gloom. But to the Japanese officers, it is a cartoon. A joke. The sergeant's face is a stone mask, but his ears burn crimson. He secures the casing, the bats stirring softly. The laughter follows them as they are led away. The project, in their eyes, is a symbol of American desperation, of a childish imagination utterly divorced from the grim reality of total war. They carry that story back to their compound, a tale of the absurd weapon that could never work. What they didn't know, what the guards at Carlsbad didn't fully know, was that the laughter had already been silenced. By fire. And the man who had done it wasn't a general or a dentist. He was a bat scientist named Dr. Louis F. Serena. And 3 months earlier, he had accidentally answered the project's single greatest question. Could a bat carry enough fire to burn down a city? The answer was yes. And he had the scorched earth to prove it. May 15, 1943. WWII Proving Ground, Utah. 3 months before the Japanese prisoners laughed. The landscape here doesn't feel like Earth. It's a vast, salt-crusted basin, a bowl of dust and silence under a searing sky. The army built a target here, a perfect replica of a Japanese industrial village. Workers, following blueprints captured in the Philippines, constructed it with meticulous, eerie accuracy, traditional wooden homes with shoji paper screens, factories with bamboo and plywood siding, tar paper roofs, and simulated lumber yards. They called it the Japanese village. It stood alone in the desert, a ghost town waiting for a ghost. Dr. Louis F. Serena, a mammalian specialist, is not a soldier. He's a man of data, of careful procedure. His world is weight ratios, metabolic rates, and hibernation cycles. Today's test is simple, a controlled, small-scale proof of concept. A few dozen of the armed bats, fitted with their tiny 17-gram napalm charges, are to be released from a standard bomb casing in a secured, isolated area. The goal is to observe their dispersal and landing behavior. The incendiaries are inert. Today is about biology, not conflagration. But in the desert, details kill. And one detail was missed. The bats are kept in a refrigerated truck, kept in a state of torpor for transport. The plan is to transfer them to the test bomb casing at the last minute. But the casing, sitting on a flatbed truck under the Utah sun, is metal. It bakes. The interior temperature soars. A private, following orders, carefully loads the somnolent bats into the heated casing. Heat activates metabolism. For a hibernating creature, warmth means wake up. The latch clicks shut. For a moment, silence. Then, a soft, collective rustling from inside the metal shell. A scratch. Then another. Serena and the army officers on site turn, frowning. The scratching becomes a frantic skittering. The casing, not yet elevated or activated, sits on the flatbed truck. And somewhere inside, a bat, clawing for freedom, finds a gap. A seam. A flaw. A single, dark shape flutters out, then drops, disoriented, to the wooden bed of the truck. Then another. And another. Panic is a cold wave. Contain them. The shout is razor-edged. But you cannot contain a waking nightmare. The bats, startled, armed, and now fully awake, do what their instincts command. They seek darkness. They flutter away from the shouting men, from the blinding sun, towards the nearest, darkest shelter. Not towards the isolated test zone. Towards the Japanese village. You can see it in Serena's frozen posture, the dawning, absolute horror. He watches as the small, fluttering shadows disappear under the eaves of a replica factory, into the ventilation gap of a simulated farmhouse, beneath the tar paper roof of a barracks. They vanish into the perfect target. Seconds tick by. The desert holds its breath. The soldiers stand, helpless, rifles useless against an enemy already behind the lines. Then, the first wisp of smoke curls from the roof of the factory. It's gentle, almost innocent. Then a second plume, from a house. A sharp pop echoes across the basin, the sound of a tiny charge detonating, igniting not just its napalm, but the bone-dry timber and paper. The fire doesn't spread. It erupts. It doesn't move from house to house. It appears in a dozen houses, 24, all at once. The village isn't burning. It is being consumed from the inside out. The carefully constructed replica becomes a roaring, geometric inferno in less than 60 seconds. Flames shoot 30 feet into the air, fueled by the very design meant to make it authentic. Black smoke smears the blue sky. The men can only watch, their faces lit by the apocalyptic glow. The heat washes over them, a dry, punishing wind. No sirens. No fire trucks could reach this in time. The village is written off. A total loss. Dr. Serena says nothing. The data is in. The question of efficacy is answered in ash and roaring flame. The bat bomb worked. It worked so perfectly, so catastrophically, that it had just annihilated the only place in America built to test it against. The report would be stamped top secret. The laughter in Carlsbad was still 3 months in the future. But here, in the silent aftermath of the accidental blaze, the project was no longer a curiosity. It was a weapon of terrifying, undeniable promise. And it had just proven it could escape its masters. September 1944. The Pentagon, Washington, D.C. A third-floor conference room smells of stale coffee, cigarette smoke, and exhausted ambition. The footage from WWII is grainy, silent, and devastating. It plays on a loop from a projector, its mechanical clack-clack-clack the only sound in the room. Black and white images show the Japanese village not burning, but unfolding into fire. One structure after another spontaneously erupts, the geometric spread of the flames mapping the bat's perfect, lethal dispersal. An admiral leans forward, his shadow falling across the screen. "Good God," he murmurs, not in prayer, but in tactical. On the table lies a thick dossier labeled Project X-Ray. It contains Dr. Adams' fervent letters, Dr. Serena's meticulous biological reports, and the stark after-action analysis from WWII. Total destruction of test facility achieved in approximately 6 minutes. Firefighting measures irrelevant. Concept proven viable on an operational scale. Viable. A sterile word for what they'd all just witnessed. But this is no longer 1943. The war has pivoted. The discussion isn't about theoretical weapons anymore. It's about brutal logistics and a closing window of time. A general from the Material Command taps a thick finger on a map of the Pacific. We're island hopping. B-29s will be operational from the Marianas by year's end. LeMay is pushing for massive incendiary campaigns over Japanese cities. His approach is direct. He means hundreds of bombers, thousands of tons of traditional firebombs. It's a sledgehammer. A younger officer, one who had been at Carlsbad and had seen the mocking laughter, speaks up. Sir, the psychological component of X-ray is unprecedented. It's not just destruction. It's terror from a source they consider harmless. It bypasses civil defense. You can't fight a fire in your attic if 10,000 attics ignite at once. He pauses. They laughed at it. Imagine the impact when it works. The counter-arguments are formidable, etched in dollar signs and time. The bat program is a biological nightmare. It requires breeding millions of bats, a logistical chain of refrigeration and specialized handling, the production of micro-incendiaries by the tens of millions. They've already spent $2 million. A fortune then. The B-29 program, for all its cost, is predictable. It's metal, fuel, and men. You can command it. The admiral finally stands, walking to the window. He looks out over a city blacked out against potential air raids, a world at total war. 2 questions, he says, his back to the room. 1. Can we operationalize this by mid-45? Not in a desert, but from a bomber over Nagoya? 2. What does it do to us? The silence is heavy. The second question hangs in the smoky air. Firebombing from 30,000 feet is clinical, detached. Releasing a plague of armed, living creatures feels different. It feels medieval. It crosses an invisible line in the soul of warfare. The bat bomb is no longer a joke. It's a strategic fork in the road. Down one path. A proven, bizarre, and psychologically monstrous weapon that could literally set the enemy homeland alight from within. Down the other, the escalating promise of atomic fission, a single, supreme blast of unimaginable power from a project called Manhattan. They had 2 weapons of unimaginable horror nearing readiness. One was born in a dentist's imagination, proven by accident in the Utah desert. The other was born in a theoretical physicist's equation, being forged in secret cities. The war would only have room for one. The decision, when it comes, isn't announced in a memo. It is a slow suffocation. Funding is diverted. Personnel are reassigned. The bat caves in Texas are quietly shuttered. Project X-ray is terminated on March 15, 1945, not with a bang, but with a bureaucratic stamp, superseded by higher priority projects. The bats are released, unarmed, into the Texan dusk. The segmented bomb casings are scrapped. The men who believed in it, from the dentist to the biologist, are told to forget it. But in the Pacific, the firebombing campaigns begin in earnest. On the night of March 9 to 10, 1945, 334 B-29s drop 1,665 tons of incendiaries on Tokyo. The resulting firestorm kills an estimated 100,000 people. It is destruction on a scale the bat bomb could only have dreamed of achieving. Achieved by the sledgehammer, not the scalpel. The laughter in Carlsbad had been silenced, not by a refined secret weapon, but by a brutal, conventional inferno. Yet the ghost of the idea lingered, the unsettling proof that sometimes the most absurd concept could hold a kernel of apocalyptic truth. A truth so disturbing, even its creators turned away.